Hi, and welcome back. Now, I told you I'd do a part 2 of the British and European car show, show you some photos. So, here it is. We'll come in here. And the first photo I want to show you, it's quite amusing because I'm a member of the local MX5 club, and the president of the chapter that I'm in asked me to write up an article for the magazine on both the American and the European car shows that I've been to in the last couple of weeks. So I did that, and one of the things I did is I noticed this seat here. I'll bring it up. So this is obviously from the, it looks like it's probably from about the 70s, and yes, that's a dummy and not a real child. And I believe it was probably designed to clip over the top of the door and the window, so that if you were having a picnic in the field or something, you wanted your child to be involved, be outdoors as part of the picnic, but not run away anywhere, you'd put them in this. But I took some photos of this. Well, actually I got my wife to take photos of this. You know, in this article I wrote up for the MX5 Club magazine, I suggested that if anyone in the club was considering selling their MX5 because it was getting too small now they were having grandchildren, they could instead invest in one of these seats, and that I had got the New Zealand exclusive rights to distribute them. And I made up a bogus email address that anyone could contact if they wanted to buy one of these, and it was, what's health and safety at something or other. I don't remember what I used now, but it was something like that. But it sort of occurred to me, and I wrote it in the article about how it was really, really great because it meant you could carry your grandchildren in your MX5, and if they started to get a bit grizzly, you could start putting the window up and down so they'd get a ride up and down as they're travelling, and if they got really grizzly, you just put the window up and leave it up so you don't hear them. But I thought that was quite an interesting. So I've got a couple of photos of that seat arrangement. I don't think a lot of modern cars that would probably dent the door if you tried putting them on, and quite frankly some idiot would probably try driving down the road with their child in that seat if they made things like that nowadays. So I don't think, I think there's a very good reason they don't make anything like that nowadays. But I did take these photos of it. It's an interesting little station wagon they're attached to. I think from memory that's a Vauxhall Velox there, that station wagon. Now this was a nice Triumph. Now I'm not too au fait with my Triumphs. I think it's a TR6. It might be a TR4. I'm not quite 100% certain of my numberings with the older Triumph TRs, but it was certainly a nice one. They understand that this style of roof was quite a rarity on these. That bit there does bolt, I believe, so you can take that off, or you can put that back window on and then put a roof panel on as well. And that was an option instead of the fold-up convertible roof if you wanted. And you can see a nice Jag XJS on the background there of this one. That was a very nice purple Morris Minor, and I've got a couple of other photos, or at least one more photo of this with the interior. And next door to this Morris Minor was at the American and Hot Rod Car Show the previous week as well. It actually belongs to an acquaintance of mine, and it's got a V8 3 litre Lexus engine in it, so it goes like hot stink. But because at the previous weekend show, the Hot Rod American Car Show, it was very liked and things. At this show, it didn't get quite the same reception because, generally speaking, at the European and British car show, people like originality. So the fact that that was anything but original, it didn't go down particularly well with members of the Morris Club and things. But it's still a nice vehicle. There's another shot of that purple convertible Morris Minor. And there's a shot of the interior, and as you can see the interior has been redone in purple plush as well, and that's definitely not the original steering wheel on it either. And this was a nice Mini that was also with the Morris Club. Quite like the green of that, so it was quite nice. And this is a picture of an old Mini next to one of the newer Minis, and you can really see the size difference, and it's really obvious in that picture, but it's so obvious with lots of other cars as well too, not just the Minis, with the Volkswagen Beetles. with Mazda MX-5s, you know, the NC that I've got compared to the earlier models. With just about anything, the modern cars are so much bigger and so much heavier. Now, the reason that they are so much bigger and so much heavier is because there's so much more safety equipment you've got to have in a modern car compared to what you had to have in the 60s and 70s. But it does take away from some of the pleasure of driving when you've got such big, heavy cars. They're not as small and light as the old ones are. And I mean, I remember racing around in a Mini like this in my, I don't know, late teens, probably 16, 17, 18, that sort of age. I never owned a Mini, but some of my friends did. So I was often racing around in one, and I look at it now and I sort of think, how on earth did I ever manage to fit in that? Because I was well over 6 foot tall, even at that age. But, I mean, cars were smaller then. You just got used to having to fold yourself into them, and that was just the way it was. So you got used to it and you didn't complain. But now I sort of look at the old Mini like that. I sort of think, yeah, there's just no way I'd be able to climb into that. Just no way. I quite like this Mini. Personally, I don't go for the painted bumpers. I prefer chrome bumpers. But I do like the artwork on the side there. I think that's very well done. And of course, it doesn't really take away from the originality of the Mini, because you could repaint it at any time you wanted to get rid of that again. And that Mini behind it, the yellow one there, looks a wee bit like the Mini from the movie Goodbye Pork Pie. If you've ever seen that movie, very, very famous New Zealand movie from the 80s. And if you've never seen it, I recommend you do a search and see if you can find it on one of your, like I know in America, for example, you get a lot more TV subscription things than you get here in New Zealand. So have a look and see if you can find the movie Goodbye Pork Pie. It's about this guy that drives a Mini the length of New Zealand to go and see his girlfriend, and it's an interesting movie. Some of the things that happen along the way, but I won't spoil it. That's another one of the new Minis, the convertible one. My wife loves anything with no roof, whether it's a Volkswagen Beetle or a Mini or anything. I was quite interested in the Union Jack wheels on this one. I thought they were interesting. And that's a Mini Moke. Now, the Mini Moke, to be perfectly honest, makes the MX-5 look like it's just shuddering under the weight of optional extras and things. This is very, very bare bones indeed. 4 grown men can lift this up, one at each corner, no trouble whatsoever. And in fact, one grown person, they're very, very easy to park. So all you do is, if you're on your own, just drive the nose into the car park, then jump out, lift up the back end of the car. One person can do that, no trouble whatsoever, and walk it across and put it down. So that's how easy these are to park. I know at one stage the Army actually tried these out as a possibility to use them for the Army, but they ended up going with the Jeep instead. But this was one of the possibilities they did try out. They've got quite small wheels, so they can get stuck reasonably easy. But as I said, they weigh next to nothing, so if it does get stuck, you just hop out and lift it up. Yeah, of course, Volkswagen produced the Volkswagen 181, nicknamed The Thing, which was sort of very similar concept to this, and there was one of those at the show as well. I have got a photo of that further on. This is a little Fiat Bambina. I think its real name is Fiat 500, but here in New Zealand they all got nicknamed Fiat Bambina. Again, absolutely tiny car. Even just next to my MX-5, this would look tiny, and the MX-5 is no big car. This is a TVR. Now this TVR was for sale, but they wanted 39,000 for it. There's another TVR they wanted 60,000 for sale here as well. It was quite funny because I was talking to the people that owned this one, and they were telling me what a steal it was at that price, given the amount of money they'd spent on it, getting it up to this condition. I sort of thought that's not really a good selling point for TVRs. I mean, TVRs are known, I mean, they're great cars, absolutely great. They weigh absolutely nothing. They've got a honking big V8 in them, and they've got no assists of any sort, no anti-lock braking, no airbags, nothing that you don't absolutely need. So they weigh next to nothing. The whole body is fiberglass. In fact, interestingly enough, when because these are British, and in the UK a law came out that said that you had to have airbags, I believe it was, and they carried on making these without. And when they came along and said to him, "Did you not get the memo? Why haven't you installed airbags in your car?" The guy that ran the factory at the time that owned the company just said, "Oh, I never got the memo," and just carried on making them. But these are known to be an anti-kit car. So I don't know if you know what a kit car is or not, but the Caterham 7 is the perfect example of a kit car. Spelled Caterham, and then the space the number 7. If you don't know what a kit car is, so a kit car is a car, you buy it in pieces, that comes with all the pieces, and you have to assemble it yourself, and it can take anywhere from a couple of months to a couple of years, depending on how much time you put into it, before you've got a car that's running and ready to use on the road. So TVR is the opposite of that. You buy them, they're all in one piece, but because the build quality wasn't always the greatest on TVRs, every time you went out for a drive, it started to shake itself to bits, so you ended up with lots and lots of pieces. So yeah, the opposite to what a kit car does. Starts off as one and becomes many, instead of starting off as many and becoming one. There's that Volkswagen 181, which they've always named Volkswagen the Thing. These were very, very big in the States. Not very common over here. It's very rare to see one over here. I think the Mini Moke was probably more common over here. This was a wee bit bigger than the Mini Moke, and that's another picture of it. And no, I don't know why they've got that flashing light on the back, but they have. Nice little combi van. This one was done up like a camper on the inside, but had no windows in it. A lot of these have windows in them. It was nice. There's another one that was like a half van, half ute. So it had the van body up to about here where the doors end, and then it had the truck bit out the back. So it was like a double cab truck, basically. Double cab ute, pretty much. Probably first double cab ute ever invented, the Volkswagen Combi. A Triumph 2.5. This one I believe is a TC, 2.5 TC. This photo is because my wife absolutely loves Triumphs. Her first ever car was a Triumph. Very similar to this one, only had the 2 litre, not the 2.5 litre. Magnum PI. I didn't actually see Magnum there, but his car was definitely there. And this was a Ferrari SF90, which I've never actually seen in the flesh before. I hate to think how much it's worth. I'm sure it would be the wrong side of $1 million, but it also is not the kind of car you could use in New Zealand. We have very low speed limits in New Zealand, sort of thing. We have loads and loads of speed cameras, so you daren't speed. Anytime you speed, you're going to get caught and you're going to be given tickets, sort of thing. And a car like this, you couldn't use its full potential on the road. And of course, if you take it out onto a racetrack, well, your insurance isn't going to cover you while you're on a track. So really, the only thing a car like this is any good for in New Zealand is as a showpiece to stick in a museum or something to look good. It's really not usable at all in New Zealand. It's just, you couldn't stretch its legs even slightly. And this is a Fiata. So I call it a Fiata because when Mazda released the Miata, Fiat released this at the same time, and they're basically the same. So from the bottom of the windscreen to just ahead of the front back wheels, they're identical to the MX-5 Mazda. They were built sort of, the two companies combined to build it to save money. These ones have a different bodywork on the front, different bodywork on the back, a different engine. Now, it's all opinion. This isn't a very good angle of this car, I'm sorry, but it was parked too close to others to get a really good angle of it. But the headlights look huge on this angle, and they're not. They're actually quite nice. In my opinion, the Fiat here is actually possibly even slightly nicer looking than the Mazda MX-5. Debatable, but I think it's possibly even slightly nicer looking. But I understand the build quality is nowhere near as good, and these have a 1.4 turbocharged engine, 1.4 litre turbocharged, whereas the Mazda MX-5 has the 2 litre naturally aspirated engine. I definitely prefer the Mazda engine, so I wouldn't envision buying one of these, even though I do think they look quite nice. So that's a Fiata. Really it's a Fiat 125, but I call it a Fiata. Another Triumph. This one's 2.5S. So not quite the one that my wife would love. She loves the colour of this. She would want the 2.5 PI, which was the fuel injected one. This one here still had the twin carbs of the 2.5 TC had, but had a lot of the other bits that the PI had. So it had the vinyl down the back pillar there. It had the Globe alloy wheels there. So basically it was like the 2.5 PI in every way. It had all the trim bits that the PI had, with the only exception being it still had the twin carb engine instead of the fuel injected engine. But so this is almost my wife's sort of dream car, although as I said in the video, I don't think she'd sell her MX-5 to buy one, but she does love them still. These are two other TVRs. Now this purple one here, that's the one that was for sale for $60,000. That's a four-seater, believe it or not. Look, that certainly doesn't look it. That one had, it's painted in a colour that TVR did a number of their cars in this kind of colour scheme, where it's done in a, I don't know exactly how it's sprayed, but it's sprayed in two different directions. So the car's two different colours depending on the angle you're looking at it from. So this one, look, and depending on where the sunlight's hitting as well, it either looked to be bluey green, which you can just kind of see there on the mudguard, or purple, which you can sort of see on the back of the door there, depending on the angle you were looking at it from. TVR did a lot of cars in that kind of colour scheme, not necessarily using those colours. I did one that looked orangey red from one angle and gold from another. They did another one that looked limey green from one angle and I think it was a yellowy gold from another angle. So I don't know what that kind of paint scheme's called, where it looks two different colours depending on the angle you're looking at it from. This one had a couple of really nasty scratches on the boot lid, so I don't know whether that was deliberate by someone trying to vandalise the car or whether it was an accident, but I don't think you'd be able to touch it up because that type of paint that it's done with. I don't think you'd even just be able to respray the boot lid. I think you'd have to respray the whole car to get rid of it, which is probably why they were still there. Yes, so there's two more TVRs. That's the this blue one here, which is a Tuscan S. No matter what angle you looked at it from, it was full of swoopies and looked really, really curvy and things. So this is it from the back, and you can just see, I mean, even the spoiler on the back is anything but straight. It's all swooping curves and everything. So that's why I took that photo, just show some of those curves. This is that one that's a four-seater again, and if I zoom in, you can see how crazy they are. Here's the width of the centre console. Look how wide that centre console is. You've got instruments both above and below the steering wheel. TVRs were very, very well known for not being normal in any way whatsoever. They'd often have hidden door handles, so you wouldn't know where the door handles were, and all sorts of things like this. And I think that's the last photo now. Yes, it is. But I told you I'd share some photos with you from the British and European Car Show. So that's what I've done, and hope you enjoyed those. And I will catch up with you all again later. Thank you for watching. I'll try and get another farming video out at some point, but I've got a fairly hectic week on this week, and if I did another farming video right now, you'd probably be bored anyway, because I'm still harvesting carrots. I've probably got another hour and a half to go of harvesting carrots before they'll be finished, and then I've got the job of loading all those wooden boxes of carrots onto a truck to take them and sell them. So I don't know if that would necessarily be an interesting video to watch either, because that'll be very long and repetitive, but I will try and get another farming video out sometime soon. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Bye.